Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Air Ecologist, and welcome on our maiden flight. We are currently on cruising altitude, around about 20 feet, and we are making our way around the island. So stay tuned to learn more about the magnificent creatures that we share our world with. Hello there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays, the channel where we are learning more about nature by playing games. And as was hopefully evident from that introduction there, we are doing something a little bit different today. We are taking Flamecrest, our Argentavis, out. Here we go. Hello Flamecrest. Oh, good girl. And we are going to fly around the island in a bit more of a guided tour type of video. So hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully all goes well. So, welcome everybody to the maiden flight of Air Ecologist. We are starting our tour here, of course, with our first dinosaur on the island here, the Triceratops. We saw him last time as he was wandering around our base camp. Now, most likely more of a herd creature. This here appears to be a male that most likely, like the buffalo of modern day Earth, will be ousted from the herd occasionally and do their own thing. In South Africa we call those dagga boys. They are, well, dagga refers to mud or cement, and you very often find them chilling around the mud pools. Now Triceratops over here, there's no evidence that they would have had exactly the same behavior like that, but Triceratops of course means three-horned face, which is a very good description. If we just take our binoculars out here, well, can't really see the horns from the backside now, can we? Just taking a nice little cruise closer to him. Notice the two massive horns in the front and then one on the nose there. Those are the three horns that it's referring to. Now, there's something seems to have gone wrong with this Triceratops, because as far as this ecologist knows, they did not have any weird spikes on the top of their frill. They had a relatively round frill, perhaps a few little horns, but none of these big horns. Not sure what happened with that one, but it most likely did not have weird little horns all along its frill there. Now, coming up on the front here, we have our first little primate of our tour. This is a Mesopithecus. Mesopithecus just meaning medium-sized ape, and that is a very brightly colored one, most likely tagged by some other researchers to be clearly visible from space. Our next bunch of creatures here on the right hand side, if we just look past our plane's wings over here and not go too close to the Troodons over there, we have got, right over here, we've got Friar Tuck. We've got a Pachycephalosaurus and the head of our Argentavis. Okay, there we go. Good view of our local Pachycephalosaurus. Pachycephalosaurus, Pachy referring to thick, and then Cepha is head, and Saurus is lizard, so the thick-headed lizard. And we are just going to park right here, take a bit of a breather. Notice the magnificent creature here. The domed head there. Now, nowadays, it is believed that three species of these Pachycephalosaurids, the Stygimoloch, Dracorex, and the Pachycephalosaurus over here itself, are actually the same species, just with the juvenile and intermediate and adult stages. The Pachycephalosaurus here being the adult stage, and we can have a good look at its dome head there. About 15 centimeters, so about 6 inches thick, the skull at the top there. There have been a number of studies to see whether it could actually use its head in a ramming fashion, and the jury is still out on that, though it does appear that at least in some circumstances they could and did use their head as a main defense and against other intruders, other males in their territory. So most likely males would have fought over females using their heads. So they interpreted that whole thing of use your head to solve your problems, and they took it a little bit too literal. Now, whether they were head-butting one another or whether they were actually just using it to shove one another more like American bison would do nowadays, it's obviously we don't know that, because this one over here does not want to fight, and we don't have any other specimens to actually have a good look at. So let's actually have a look at the little carnivorous dinosaurs we had running around here. Now, just trying to find them again. There is one right up ahead. If we just turn our plane, our Flamecrest over here, There we go. That there is a Troodon. Now, Troodon is a bit of a, we call it a wastebasket taxon. Taxon can refer to anything, a species, a genus, a family, any level in the taxonomic tree. And the wastebasket one is basically just one that a whole bunch of potentially very different species were just kind of lumped into. Now, Troodon means wounded tooth. Don is tooth and truo is then wounded, or refers to wounded. So this creature here was described on literally a single tooth which had serrated edges. And ever since that one species was described, anytime a tooth was found that had serrations, it was just kind of lumped in with this. And nowadays, as far as I recall, Troodon is not actually a valid genus. It's been split into a whole bunch of other potentially very different species. So, Troodon doesn't really exist. This is only a figment of your imagination. Copy that. Okay, so I have just received word from the ground that Troodon does in fact still exist. Troodon formosus is a species of Troodon that does still exist. That is, well, not in real life, but there are fossils attributed to that species from North America, from the Judith River Formation in Montana. But a whole bunch of other species with fossils separated by hundreds of thousands of miles and millions of years in between them have now in fact been split into a variety of different species. So Troodon itself, Troodon formosus, is still considered a valid taxon. However, a whole bunch of other ones that were with it are now completely separate species. Well, now, interesting how the debate around that still yields very interesting results. Now, right over here, we have a little dinosaur with a little crest. Now, unfortunately, we can't have a good look at it because our aeroplane has its head in the way. Oh dear, I have just fallen off. And there is a pack of raptors in the area. And let's just get the pilot back on into his plane. There we go. I have pressed the wrong button. Right, I apologize, everybody, that you are now flying with a clearly incompetent pilot who does not know which buttons to press. Anyway, we are right above a pack of raptors. Now, these raptors, previously everything was considered to be Velociraptor. However, this is most definitely not Velociraptor. Velociraptors were only about knee height, were very, very small, come from Mongolia. And they were this is definitely not what we are looking at here. We have got two of them attacking a much larger creature there together, exhibiting some signs of pack hunting behavior. Though not known from raptors in real life on Earth, it is possible that they may have joined together in loose coalitions to attack larger prey, as we saw there. And most likely, the individuals like these ones here would hunt separately to take down smaller creatures, and then potentially during the breeding season, there we go, that one over there is trying to, oh, there's a whole three of them attacking a Parasaurolophus over there. So they would most likely gather together in larger groups to take down large prey, and most likely hunting individually to take down smaller prey. And then during the breeding season, males and females would most likely hunt cooperatively to feed the young, or at least both of them would have fed the babies. And there we go, kind of splitting off again, each to do their own thing. Two of them attacking something in the trees there. Third one deciding whether it still wants to do that or whether it wants to terrorize us. If we were to land now, we would most surely be attacked by the raptor down below. So obviously this here is not Velociraptor. It is most likely one of the larger raptor species. Most likely along the lines of Utahraptor, which was a much larger dromaeosaurid from Earth. Now, leaving behind our very dangerous raptors, or we were leaving it behind, but apparently it is not leaving us behind. It is in fact following us, using its amazing sense of sight and smell to track us. It is in fact now attacking a Pelagornis, a pelican-like bird from the Miocene era. So closer after the time of dinosaurs, this was a bird that was alive during the time of mammals. A seabird, an ocean bird, massive wingspan, and we're just going to fly quickly to catch up to it. A massive albatross-like wingspan, which could have been up to 6 meters, up to around about 20 feet, which is amazing, about 19 feet wingspan. Really amazing. There's another one in the distance, and I think there was one up here above us somewhere as well. These birds would have used their massive wings. There is one right up ahead as well. They would have used their massive wingspan to easily cross over oceans, over massive seaways and passages that would have been around during the time that they were alive. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now turning a little bit dark. We are just going to weather out the darkness. We are going to head on with our bearing in the northerly directions, and I will be back with you when the lights come back on. As we, however, go around, we will see here this Pelagornis over here easily using its wings to just maintain its position effortlessly in the slight breeze that is blowing in from the southwest. Ladies and gentlemen, it is still dark, but as we are making our way across the seaway, we have spotted the largest Megalodon I have ever seen in my life as a guide on this island. That is most definitely one of the infamous Alpha Megalodon, and we are not going to be messing around with it. We're not going to go too close to the water either, just in case our Flamecrest over here decides to throw us off. But we are going to just treat this massive creature with the respect it deserves. Most likely capable of hunting even whales. We are not going to stand a chance against it with just our metal pike that we have. But the sun is rising again, and we are going to just continue all along here to this side of the island, follow the green light, and we are going to just make our way over to the land there. Right, now as we are just refueling a little bit, let us just have a quick look at the map here. We are currently over here, and we have journeyed just over the seaway over there from that part of the island over there. Now my idea is to just follow the coastline all along over here, and then make it a little bit higher up to that island up there. That is the general plan for today, and let us then have a look and see what we find. And off we go. We are refueled, ready for our little adventure along the coastline. It is a beautiful day here on the island, and we have got many things down in the ocean there. We do have some Cnidaria as well. These are complex jellyfish-like creatures, whether they are an individual species or a whole bunch of species lumped together in a bit of a colony, I am not sure. However, one thing is certain, they have got some very, very venomous stingers, capable of immobilizing even the largest of creatures. They use stinging cells to inject an immobilizing venom into an unsuspecting creature. At the same time, they do also seem to be able to emit electrical pulses, which means they must have some kind of electrocytes as well, or electricity producing cells stacked together in the muscle fibers to produce some kind of electric current. Leaving the dangerous ocean behind, we also have, wandering around on the beach here, a harmless creature, a massive chelonian from South America, known as the Corbonemys, literally meaning coal turtle. Now, the coal turtle over here is so called because they were actually found in coal deposits in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. And they were found alongside, or in the same area and from the same time, as the largest snake to have ever lived on Earth, known as the Titanoboa. And we may actually see a Titanoboa at some point during our tour today, if we are lucky, if we cross their path. Now, on Earth, Corbonemys over here did not have this weird high shell. This is more what you would expect from something like a snapping turtle. However, Corbonemys had a bit more of a flattened shell. It was big, though not quite as big as this, and they were not, most likely, not land-dwelling. Instead, they were most likely in the group that were more semi-aquatic and were living in water. More in water at least. Now occasionally we do see the Corbonemys on the island here actually going for a bit of a swim, and then they seem to be relatively agile, not very fast, but relatively agile on land as well. So a bit more of an amphibious lifestyle, being able to live in land and water. And then a creature that was one of the main carnivores, top predators from North America during the Jurassic, the Dilophosaurus. A creature that here has a weird frill along the side of its head that it most likely did not have in real life, and also some kind of gene in it allowing it to spit venom at unsuspecting prey or predators, most likely also not present in the real deal. But this is a creature that in real life would have been much larger than it is actually present on the island over here. These ones are tiny compared to the big creatures that were alive during the Jurassic period on Earth. They were some major carnivores. They would not have been reduced to scavenging along the beach side. Here, however, as we are carrying on, again, notice we've got 2 Pelagornis on the sides there, one in front and then one more towards the back there. They would have nested somewhere along the ocean, so the cliffs that we have coming up here would most likely serve as a very nice nesting ground for these and other seabirds in the area. Just having a look to see if we can find any or spot anything interesting along the beach here as well. For now, the only things that we have around are in fact these 2 Pelagornis, and there is a third one up on the horizon way over there as well. With massive wings like these, it's quite easy to remain airborne, but difficult to actually take off from the ground, so most likely would have perched on the ocean and used the waves to actually just take off, or would have perched on rock faces like these and then actually take off from them, especially if there is a wind blowing in from the coastline with updrafts going up along the rock face over here. If you are perched on the rock there, you could easily take off and start flying. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just going to refuel again before we continue on the next leg of the journey. We do have, while we are perched here, we do have some very colorful, a robotic Parasaurolophus over there and a living Parasaurolophus over there as well. Now, Parasaurolophus, the crested, or kind of crested lizard, I believe that is what it means, or semi-crested lizard. Saurolophus was described, I believe, before the Parasaurolophus, and it had a bit of a crest, and then this one was like that Saurolophus lizard, like that crested lizard, and it was like kind of like that, so it's the Parasaurolophus that we've got over here. Now, our Flamecrest aeroplane over here is getting a little bit restless, so let us just take off and actually fly closer to the Parasaurolophus. I'm not sure whether this is Parasaurolophus walkeri, which was the first one described of the 3 or 4 species that are still described. What have we got running around there? That is an Oviraptor that is running over there. Oviraptor has gotten a bit of bad press in the past, and the name doesn't mean what they actually did. So Ovi is egg, or Ovis is egg. Raptor means thief or to steal. So the first time an Oviraptor was described, it was named Egg Thief because it was found with some eggs in close proximity to it. If we can just find our Oviraptor friend again. There it is, hiding behind the trees. There we go. And if you look at its beak over there, you can see that that beak there is perfectly adapted to actually breaking into eggs. And the logical assumption then would be that they were in fact stealing the eggs, running around with them, and then eating the eggs when they were away from the nest. However, they didn't eat eggs. They most likely would have fed on little fruits and things like that. And the eggs that the first fossil was actually found with were in fact its own eggs, and it was just a caring mother taking care of her nest of eggs. And in fact, this dinosaur, the Oviraptor, yes, hello, the Oviraptor would most likely not have eaten eggs. Instead, would have been a little bit more herbivorous or frugivorous in its diet. And so, shame. They are now forever stuck with that name, meaning egg thief, even though the original fossil was just a mother taking care of her nest. So the Parasaurolophus over here with the massive crest along its head there, that crest all along its head there would most likely have been used in sound production for individuals of the species to actually communicate with other individuals that are way off in the distance. So that one at the back there could easily communicate with the Parasaurolophus that is behind the rocks and behind this Triceratops over here, by communicating most likely by producing deep booming type sounds that will travel quite a distance and can be picked up by the other Parasaurolophus in the area. As we are making our journey across this little bit of an inlet of the ocean, there's not really an estuary. Estuaries would have a fresh water flowing into it, but this is a calm bay. There is an exit into the ocean over there. There was something that dove into the water straight over there. That there is Ichthyornis, meaning fish bird. Now if you can just have a good look, there it is flying around. Affectionately on the island here, they are called steel gulls, because if you are not careful, they will steal anything in your inventory and just fly away with it, consume it, and it will be lost forever. So we have to keep our distance here from the Ichthyornis. But Ichthyornis, as I've said, meaning fish bird, not because they were fish-eating birds, which they most likely were, but because the vertebral column of the bird here consisted of vertebrates that were shaped more like those of fish. They were actually indented on both sides of the vertebrate. So if you eat fish again and you've got the vertebral column, notice that it is indented on both sides. There where it is fixed to the two vertebrates on either side, you'll notice that it's kind of indented in the center there, and the vertebrates of the Ichthyornis there looked the same. And they would have been found along the Western Interior Seaway, which split North America in two during the past, in the one of the prehistoric eras. Now, it does seem that this could in fact be an estuary. I was mistaken, everybody. If we actually look on our map over here, yes, you can see that this is the part of a very big network of, well, supposed to be rivers. Not sure what's happening way up in the north there. But this is where the river would flow in and into the ocean over there, and in fact would join, it would have a little bit of an outlet, and this is an area where there is fresh and salt water mixing, and that is what defines an estuary. So this is a mixing, this area would have mixing of fresh and salt water, so this is in fact part of what we call an estuary. And then on the right hand side, everybody, the thunder lizard, the Brontosaurus. And there seems to be a lot of confusion taxonomically regarding where it actually belongs and what it should be called, but as I said, we are calling it Brontosaurus because a creature that is this size moving around on land will most certainly sound like thunder in the distance. Long neck, of course, meaning that it can reach the tops of trees, and this is a completely herbivorous creature using its peg-like teeth that we can see in its mouth over there to strip vegetation, especially very nice tough leaves, will be transported down the neck to the bottom over there, to the stomach, and would most likely then be digested, potentially with the use of gastroliths, which will be stones that are swallowed to grind down the food. It literally means stomach stones. It could have been used, not sure whether there have been any records of gastroliths from the sauropods, but it could most likely have helped digestion and breaking down of very, very tough material. Now, of course, one can imagine that this creature actually going down to drink would be a bit of a problem as it lowers its long neck. First of all, it has to get its neck down, and if you look at modern day giraffes, they would split their legs, their front legs, to actually be able to lower their head down. Let's just twist around like this so we don't have our Flamecrest wings interfering. But they would split their legs to then be able to lower their neck down to drink water, and if that is the case, it's quite possible that something like Brontosaurus over here could also have done something similar. My apologies, everybody. I just had to quickly take a snack and drinks break because apparently I was dying. But we are back here. But as I was saying, getting the head down to the water is only part of the problem. If you have a massive neck like this and you lower your head, well, all your head is going to be lower than your body, and all the blood is potentially going to rush to your head, which would kill you. And so how on earth do you stop yourself dying every time you take a drink like I just had to do? Well, most likely the Brontosaurus over here would have something similar to giraffes, which have got valves which will shut the bloodstream as they lower their head. So as soon as their head actually gets lowered, certain valves will close and prevent any blood from moving down the neck into their head. And then when they raise their head again, those valves would open up again, allowing the blood to be pumped up to their head and to come down again as well. That is an ingenious solution to a potentially fatal problem. Here down below we do have a Dilophosaurus swimming. Believe it or not, dinosaurs like Dilophosaurus over here would most likely have been very capable swimmers. more closely related to birds than to lizards, they have got extremely lightweight bones, relatively hollow bones, which would make them very buoyant in the water. And most likely they would have been able to actually travel along the ocean or swim along the ocean quite easily. And in fact, there have been fossilized trackways of large tyrannosaurids that were made by the creature actually swimming. And so, yep, they're even something as big as a T-Rex would have been able to swim with relative ease. Just carrying on with our flight over here, we have got the Hesperornis over here as well. Western bird it translates to, and it was more of a swimming bird, perfectly adapted for life in the water. Not really that agile on land, but very, very agile in the water. And in fact, we've got the legs that are located relatively far towards the back here, enabling it to paddle along quite easily. And it would most likely have had some kind of webbing on its feet to help it to swim forward as well. As you can see there, very actively busy hunting fish. Also, like the Ichthyornis found along the western interior seaway that split North America in two, but unlike Ichthyornis, it would not have been able to fly, with extremely stubby wings, most likely just used to steer when in the water, potentially just use it to flap a little bit, providing a little bit of propulsion within the water itself. But the majority of the propulsion in the water would have been done by those feet in the back there, swimming around. And like Ichthyornis, Hesperornis over here, also a toothed bird. Of course, very difficult to imagine, but yeah, some birds did have teeth. We had a whole group of them, like Ichthyornis, Hesperornis, Pelagornis, all those weird ornises had teeth in their jaws, which would have enabled them, in this case, to snag fish quite easily. What a magnificent, weird creature. Nonetheless, we are going to carry on. We have refueled, and our Flamecrest over here is telling us that it wants to actually continue with our flight. But we do have Ichthyornis flying around there again as well. They are very, very well studied. There have been so many fossils of them found in North America along that seaway that was present. And the interesting thing is that even the one species that is described seems to have had different sizes. They seem to have gotten larger as time went on. The earlier specimens are much smaller than the larger specimens, which were, I believe, between 25 and 33 or 40% larger than the first specimens described. But below us over here, we are just hovering in the breeze over here, because below us we have an ancient marine reptile. And these are Ichthyosaurus. Now, they are a type of ichthyosaur, which would have been a marine reptile, completely adapted for life in the ocean, incapable of going onto land. They have extremely streamlined bodies. And in fact, I think it is time for us just to go and take a quick swim in the water over here. Go and swim with dolphin-like creatures. And let us just go and have a look. Let's put away our gun. We are not going to need this. Even though they have got very dolphin-like appearances, these are reptiles. They are not mammals. Dorsal fin at the top. They've got the caudal fin at the back there, and then they've got their two sets of fins, very similar to the fish, like the coelacanth we have swimming around here, and different from mammals, where nowadays with dolphins you've got the front flipper there, you do not have the back flippers present or prevalent. And now we have a whole pod. We've got three of them, very inquisitive creatures, these large eyes, in some of the species much larger than others, which most likely would have enabled them to actually see what they are hunting in deeper, darker waters. But the bodies here perfectly streamlined for swimming along the ocean, just using their very powerful tails to swim in the water. Notice, however, that the tails, we can just pop up for air again, and we just have a look at that one that we can see right at the back there. Notice that the tail is flattened. It actually has a tip at the top and a tip at the bottom, whereas mammals nowadays, dolphins and whales, will have their tail flattened horizontally, not vertically like we have with the Ichthyosaurus. So they will have a left and a right side of the tail flipper or fluke, not a top and a dorsal and ventral side, a top and bottom side. Very, very interesting creatures. Okay, I must apparently get more oxygen because I am dying. Right, let's just breathe and have a look here again. Now, unlike dolphins, they also did not have a blowhole, a nostril that was at the top of their head. Instead, they would have had to bring their head up completely to actually breathe. Well, that was a very, very interesting little interaction. And ladies and gentlemen, here where we are perched on this rock here, we are just going to end our maiden flight like this. If you enjoyed this type of episode, please do drop it down below, and then we can do another flight next week where we continue on with our flight over to what I have heard is called Carnivore Island, and we can have a good look at the creatures that we find on our way there. If however would like to see a return to the previous version of video, we are actually going to try to hunt or catch some creatures, tame them and tell you more about them in that way, then also do tell me down in the comments and we can see which format we go for next week. Hopefully we will on Friday have our next Small Land Survive the Wilds episode again with Nick and I. If we can get our sound and everything sorted, we will have that. And then we'll be back on Saturday with a Planet Zoo stream again as well. Until next time, everybody, stay safe. I will see you all very, very soon. Bye.